You had that vision that you were like, I need to go backwards before I can go forwards.
Well, it's weird. I knew I wanted to achieve something, and I knew it was going to be difficult to get there, but this was the way I thought I could do it. I was getting so many knockbacks and stuff from the bigger companies because I didn't have any experience. But
that's the problem, isn't it? Everybody wants experience, but then you go, well, how do I get experience if no one takes the chance? And that is the big dilemma about how to get into these jobs. But I think
it's a catch-22, isn't it? Because you're like, how can I get the experience if you're not giving me it? But I also understand that you can't give me it because I've got none.
So that's why you've got to find different ways and just not give up with it, because it might seem a little bit difficult.
Absolutely. And so that for me was, let's go back to local radio. Let's see what the local radio and the local TV station can offer me. And through kind of just being really persistent and kind of badgering my boss all the time and just saying, you know, I still really want to do it. And I just put in loads of time, to be honest. I just spent any extra time I had. Can I go and shadow that presenter? Can I learn from that presenter? Can you teach me how to run a radio desk? And it was just through sheer determination that, and a little bit of lucky timing that the presenter for the sports show decided to go traveling, that the opportunity came up. But I wouldn't have had that opportunity had I not stuck around and kept learning and trying to pick bits up along the way from the presenters that were there at the time.
So how long did you do the sports show for?
I think it was about 3 years by the end of it, 2.5 to 3 years.
And then you moved on from the sports show onto
BT Sports Score.
There we go. What a step up that is.
Just a little bit. Terrifying, to be honest, at the time.
But your meeting for BT Sports Score initially was actually about something else, wasn't it? And this is another thing about keeping what you want to do in your vision, but being prepared that you have to be flexible to sort of come
open up other doors.
Yeah, basically. Because the original meeting you went for wasn't for football.
No, not at all. It was actually for a hockey job.
As you do.
Which I had zero experience in. But an agency who I was working with at the time, which is how we met, funny enough. We were both on the same agency's books. And they knew that I was doing this sports show in Brighton. And by that point, I'd done a couple of other freelance jobs for ESPN Online and like little bits and bobs. Nothing major, but just like a few little things that just added to my CV. And they knew a producer at BT, and he said, "Oh, you know, like there might be some work on the hockey this summer. Do you have anyone?" And they said, "Oh, let's introduce you to Jules." So I went along to this meeting, and by that point, I had been fortunate enough that I'd also had a meeting at Premier League Productions, which is such a. If you don't know what Premier League Productions is, and you're listening to this, I didn't know what it was when I went for the meeting, and I'm actually kind of glad I didn't. Because I didn't put any pressure on it. I thought, Premier League Productions, is this some like online company that just makes a few videos on YouTube or something? And I looked it up, as I always do before any meeting, to see what they were like. And I couldn't really find anything online anywhere. So I kind of went to this meeting thinking, okay, it must be some like new startup company that makes a bit of Premier League content.
How wrong
I could have been. And I turned up to this meeting and was like, oh my God, I'm actually at the Premier League headquarters. This is amazing. And I was fortunate enough that I had a couple of screen test shows. I'd done a couple of live shows for them on a show called Fan Zone just before I went to this meeting about the hockey job for BT Sport. And so because I was super excited about those two shows I'd done for the Premier League, it was one of the first things I said to this person who I met from BT. So this producer I met with, the first thing he asked me was, "Oh, what have you been up to?" And that week I'd done a show for Premier League Productions. So I said, "Oh, well, I've been doing this show for Premier League Productions." "Oh, right, so you're into football then." So that got us talking about football. We ended up spending 50 of the 60 minutes in our meeting just talking about football. And by the end of it, I kind of looked at my watch and I thought, oh God, we've got 10 minutes left and we've not even talked about the hockey. I've got away with this one. And he just said to me, "Look, I know we were meant to be talking about hockey, but I've actually got something else in mind for you and it's football related." And that's all he told me. He just said, "Look, I'll be in touch. I'll try and sort out a screen test for you at BT Sport for a football show." And within the next 2 weeks, I had a screen test in the world's biggest TV studio you've ever seen.
It is mad big.
Terrifyingly big.
So big.
At the time I walked in and it was quite daunting. I'm not
Can you
lie.
imagine though, if you hadn't done the experience in the shopping channel and the radio sports show experience, if you hadn't had all those experiences, walking into somewhere like the BT Sport Score studio, seeing that space, seeing everything going on, it's just terrifying.
Yeah, it was. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually quite a big deal.
And it's at that moment you realise, okay, I get now why I've had to go around the houses to do this, because I couldn't have done this if you just walked in.
Absolutely. And that screen test happened, and I also screen tested with David James of all people, and I was like, I couldn't believe that they actually brought in an ex-professional footballer to do my screen test.
You like for me?
Again, and I was terrified. Because I hadn't really had the experience of working with many ex-players by that point.
Yeah.
I'd worked with a couple on those 2 Premier League shows I'd done. And after the screen test, I knew it had gone well. You know, sometimes you just know something's gone well. But I still didn't get my hopes up, because I thought, this is too big for me right now. And within a few days, they said, we want you to do this job. We still can't tell you who you're working with or what it's going to be, really, but you're going to do a Saturday afternoon results show. And I was like, oh my God.
You were like,
this is my first full season in football. And at the same time that happened, it also married up with the Premier League offering me a contract for my first full season with them, doing that show that I'd only freelanced on a couple of times. Yeah. So those 2 really big, pivotal kind of career moments happened in the space of the same month.
Which is incredible. Throughout this podcast series, I've decided we're going to switch up the game a little bit. Okay. We all work in sport. We love sport. Sport has a competitive element to it.
Oh, and you know I'm one of the most competitive people in the world.
I was about to say, I know the answer to this before I even ask it. How competitive are you, Jules?
Very. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10.
Okay, so every guest I've got coming on this podcast is going to play this set of games.
Well, I'll be top of the leaderboard today, so I'll take that.
You're about to set the bar.
I love it.
Okay, for what is to come. I'm going to keep a track of the scores on my highly sophisticated scoreboard over here, which consists of a piece of paper and a pen. Big budget here at Outside the Box. I thought that we are going to play games just throughout the podcast. So good luck with this. This is your first clip.
I'm ready.
I'm going to play you this one. So with this one, it's going to be worth 5 points because I've just magically made up that number on the spot. And this is a career moment.
Okay.
For you.
Okay.
I want you to see if you can recognize the career moment. Tell me about it. What do you think about it? Do you recognize it? Any thoughts, feelings, emotions that you may have from this moment? How do you feel?
Later on, we'll be live at the Etihad for Pep Guardiola's first Premier League match.
Yeah, before that, though, there are 5 3:00 games that all throw up their own stories. We've already seen Hull beat Leicester, but how will another of the promoted teams, Middlesbrough, get on this afternoon? 4 debutantes for them as they host Stoke at the Riverside.
Well, firstly, Middlesbrough are in the Premier League, as are Stoke, so that's weird.
Right?
That was my first ever day.
Yes!
It was.
Oh, you deserve a round of applause for
the
that.
only reason I know that is because I remember that outfit. You know why? Because it took me forever to decide what to wear. You can imagine, like, your first day on national TV in the UK. But I just remember so much about that day. I was so nervous. But that was my very first line on
that
BT
was the
Sports
first
Score.
line.
Yeah. And I remember how terrified I was to walk down those stairs. I remember when
you have some killer heels on there as well.
I always do because I'm 5'2". But my director, I remember in the rehearsal, we had quite a few rehearsals actually leading up to the first day because it was a brand new show, brand new studio. So there was a lot of build up going into it. So by this point, me and Mark had met each other a few times. We'd been for lunch a couple of times and we'd done this run through a few times in the studio. And I remember when Kylie, my director, first said to me, "You've got to walk down the stairs for your first line." I was like, I hate you. I actually hate you. But I love her to bits, really. But that was terrible. I was more scared about that than anything, because I was like, imagine my opening line on BT Sport and I fall down the stairs. That would be so me to do that. But luckily I managed to get away with it. Then all the nerves of it being the first day and all the pressure you put on yourself and knowing that all your friends and family are watching. But yeah, that's really nice watching that back, actually. I was actually all right, wasn't I?
You were actually really good. You looked...
I thought it was going to be terrible.
No, you looked so confident with it. And you just looked like this absolute female boss that turned up in this studio and it was just like, yes. But I think
inside I was dying.
No, but also what's quite a moment is this was 5 seasons ago and you were the only female in that studio.
I was, indeed. And obviously things have come along quite a bit since then because... I remember the first female pundit we had was Alex Scott, and it was way before she'd done anything for Sky or the BBC, and BT were the first, our show was the first show to have Alex Scott on as a pundit. And I remember when that happened, and then we also had Eni Aluko on soon after that, and then Karen Carney a season later, and there are now a lot more, and Rachel Brown-Finnis, of course, who's been with the show not quite since day one, but
she's been close.
Certainly since the first season, I think she's done with us as well, and they're all amazing women, and it's changed quite a bit since when I first started, but yeah, the only girl in that studio, and amongst like a lot of big characters as well, like Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton. I think John Hartson was there on my first day. I'm trying to remember. Harry Kewell might have been one of the guests. Jermaine Genus.
Yeah, you are right. It was all that. Like, she's got a great memory.
Yeah, so it was. A lot of them still work on the show now, obviously.
Were you intimidated?
Yeah, definitely. More so in the green room. That first initial meeting is way more intimidating than when you're on air. They know you and your co-presenter are in charge, so it's a little bit easier once you're on air. But actually, the green room and the first meeting and getting to know everyone and hoping they take you seriously and hoping that...
Because that's a big thing.
Definitely, as a female.
Yeah, because let's face it, it's been a male-dominated sport for years and years and years. And females coming through, especially female presenters within football, has only really started to change massively in the last 5 years.
Definitely.
Did you ever feel, oh God, I'm walking into their world?
Yeah, definitely. I did, but I was like so excited to be part of it. So all of that kind of laddie kind of speak and that type of environment doesn't intimidate me. It was more the people, because
to flip
they were
it around,
people. Yeah,
to flip it around, were they welcoming of you?
Very much so. Actually, I've been really lucky in all of the workplaces I've worked in that I've never felt uncomfortable around anybody. Like everyone's been super welcoming and really lovely. And I think because it was a new show, that might have helped, because everyone was in a new environment. They were asking me a lot of questions. Oh, what do we do with this? What do we do with that? So it quite quickly became comfortable. But certainly the very first day walking in and meeting anyone for the first time, it's just a general like butterfly nerves.
Yeah, it's
type
like the
of
first
feeling.
day of school again.
Yeah.
It's the best way to describe it, isn't it?
Yeah, but
you just hope you get through it and no one nicks your lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can be like, yes, that was a successful first day.
It quite quickly became like my second home. And so once the first few shows were out the way, I think it felt a lot more comfortable. And before you know it, these ex-footballers start walking into the room and you don't even think anything of it now. You're just like, oh, they're just people.
Yeah.
Whereas at the start, it was very different. Do I get 5 points?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
I've written a big number 5
Thank
on my high-tech scoreboards over here.
I like the way I reminded you there.
Yeah, I did.
Don't miss my 5 points, babe.
I know, you're a stickler for rules, isn't that like you? Things that have ever gone wrong on air. Does it happen to you often? It happens to all of us, especially when you speak so much as the TV presenter. I think my classic was I was in full flow of something. I was talking about Crystal Palace defender Gary Cahill, and it came out as Harry Gahill. And it was one of those things that came out. I was like, I've just said that, haven't I? Definitely. And then the gallery in my ear started laughing. So I started to try not to laugh, and it was just a nightmare. Have you ever had slip-ups, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it always happens because some are funnier than others, and some people don't even notice because they're so quick or they're not a big a deal, because we're all human beings. Even the best broadcasters, the top broadcasters in the world, make mistakes because it just happens. But
you are a top broadcaster.
Oh, thanks.
100%. I'm so glad you said that, though, that sometimes top broadcasters make mistakes. Talk us through what happened here, Jules.
I know what you're going to show now.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Sorry.
It's all right, Jules. What's happened? That's a
Sorry,
replay,
I'm
Jules.
getting a bit excited, but it's the replay. Sorry.
Oh, Jules.
We needed that.
I mean, let's be clear. This happened live on air on a Saturday afternoon.
I love that. It's time to take a break. Can I just say, Paul Ince is such a wind-up as well. He loves winding me up about anything. And as soon as it happened, you could see the joy in his face. He was like, yeah, you made a mistake.
What did you do?
So basically what happened was, on BT Sports School, we all have these monitors in front of us, and they're split into 4 screens on each monitor. So you've got 4 separate things. And the top screen is whatever you choose for it to be, so whatever football match you want to watch. And the bottom screens are replays that you have no control over. So someone in the gallery will be chucking in replays every now and then so that any of the guests or the presenters can see them. And it was halftime, and I should have known because it was halftime, but I clearly had a zoned out moment. And I glanced up to my TV screen, and Glenn Murray had scored a goal. And I thought, yes, we've scored. And realised then it was obviously a replay. And it wasn't a goal. It was just a replay of the goal.